You don't need to remember every concept. You don't need to practice everything. You don't need to keep working on yourself endlessly. What you can trust is these 4 things. First, your system knows how to integrate. Second, safety speeds change. Third, less force leads to more stability. And fourth, embodiment grows quietly. Remember, you're not behind, you're just integrating. Welcome to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, where we explore the keys to unlocking your full potential and living your best life. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. Whether you're looking to make a breakthrough, overcome a challenge, or simply live with greater clarity, joy, and purpose, you'll find the tools and inspirations you need right here. So let's start your journey towards personal mastery and growth right now. Welcome back to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, your go-to resource for practical tips, insightful research, and inspiring stories to help you unlock your full potential. I'm your host, Jose Johnson, and I am an expert in the fields of mindfulness, mindset, and peak performance, and I am so excited to have you here with me today. Now, today's episode, a little bit different. Not because it introduces something new, but because it brings everything together. Now, over the last several episodes, we've talked about how environment shapes mindset, why burnout is often a boundary problem, where energy leaks quietly drain capacity, why rest doesn't always equal recovery, and how growth itself can become exhausting. Now, that's a lot of insight, and insight matters, but insight alone doesn't change your life. Embodiment does. And this episode is about that shift. So why is it that insight feels good, but fades? Well, insight's powerful because it brings relief. When something finally makes sense, your nervous system relaxes for a moment. You start to think, oh, that's what's been happening. No wonder this feels hard. Well, that explains so much. But here's what most people don't realize. That relief is temporary unless the body learns something new. Because insight lives in the thinking mind. Embodiment lives in the nervous system. And those two don't always update at the same speed. Your nervous system doesn't change because you agree with something. It changes through experience. It changes when you feel safety where there used to be threat, choices where there used to be compulsion, completion where there used to be lingering stress. That's why you can know better and still react the same way. That's not a failure of insight. It's a timing issue. The body learns through repetition under safety. And that's why we keep going back to old patterns. Now, see, a lot of people assume that if they go back to an old reaction, that they've lost progress. But regression is not failure. It's information. Old patterns don't return because they're bad. They return because they're familiar. And familiarity feels safe to the nervous system. So when stress rises, the system reaches for what it knows best. Not because you weren't learning, but because learning hasn't fully embodied itself yet. Now, this is one of the most important truths that I hope that you can understand if you want change to last. Integration is not linear. And yet, almost everything in our culture trains us to expect it to be that way. We're taught to think in a straight line. Progress is forward. Mistakes are backwards. Success or failure. But the nervous system doesn't work that way. It learns in layers. You don't just replace old patterns. You outgrow them. And when pressure rises, the system may briefly reach for what's familiar. Not because you failed, but because familiarity feels safer. That's why integration often looks like responding differently, but not exactly perfectly. Catching yourself sooner, not instantly. Recovering faster, not avoiding activation altogether. Now, from the outside, that can look inconsistent. From the inside, it can feel discouraging. But what's actually happening is capacity building. Now, here's a more accurate picture. Integration looks like a spiral. You revisit similar challenges, but each time with a little more awareness, a little more choice, a little less intensity, and a quicker return to center. Now, that's progress, even when it doesn't feel dramatic. And this part is very critical for you to hear. Reactivity does not erase integration. What matters is how long you stay reactive, how harshly you judge yourself afterward, whether you abandon yourself in the process. A nervous system that integrates well doesn't avoid activation. It just knows how to come back. And that's the difference. So if you notice that you still get triggered, but you recover faster, if you still leak energy, but you notice it sooner, if you still overextend, but correct more gently, that is not stagnation. That's embodiment taking root. Integration is measured by repair, not perfection. And when you start measuring growth this way, something shifts. You stop rushing yourself. You stop treating every reaction like a setback. You stop assuming you're not there yet. Instead, you begin to trust the process and yourself a little bit more. And trust is what allows integration to continue unfolding without force. So let's talk about making it stick. When people say they want change to stick, they usually mean, I don't want to keep working this hard. Yeah, and that's fair. Making change stick doesn't mean you never get triggered, that you never leak energy, that you never need boundaries, or that you never feel tired. What it does mean is that your system begins to trust you, that recovery begins to happen more quickly, that stress doesn't hijack you for as long, that you don't abandon yourself under pressure. Stickiness is about self-trust, not control. Now, here's the through line of this entire series. Your nervous system is always asking one question: can I trust you to protect me? Every time that you honor a boundary, that you complete a stress cycle, that you stop over carrying, when you reduce pressure instead of adding to it, you answer that question with a resounding yes. And when the nervous system trusts you, it stops working so hard. And that's when change starts to feel natural. And this is why this series is actually about less, not more. See, if you zoom out, you'll notice something important. The series doesn't give you more to do. It helps you to do less of what was draining you. Less over-responsibility, less self-optimization, less pressure, less unfinished business. Integration is subtractive. You don't become someone new. You stop overriding yourself. Now, in the second half of this episode, we're going to define what embodiment looks like day to day, introduce a final integration practice, help you orient forward without urgency, and close the series in a way that feels grounded and not rushed. But for now, let's sit with this. You don't need to master yourself. You need to stay connected to yourself. And that's what makes change stick. Change doesn't stick because you tried harder. It sticks because your nervous system finally feels safe enough to stop bracing. All right, before we talk about our practice, we need to name something very clearly. Embodiment doesn't look impressive. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. And it generally doesn't come with certainty. Embodiment looks like pausing instead of pushing, noticing tension sooner, choosing a softer response, recovering a little more quickly, not needing to explain yourself quite as much. Now, from the outside, that can look subtle. From the inside, it just feels like less effort. And that's a signal. When change is embodied, it requires less management, not more. You see, most personal growth practices are instructional. They tell you what to do, how to fix it, where to focus, what to change next. But at the nervous system level, instruction can feel like pressure. What the system actually needs, especially after growth-heavy periods, is orientation. Orientation answers questions like, where am I at right now? Am I safe? Do I need to act? Can I just slow down? Orientation allows the system to settle without effort. And that's what makes integration possible. Now, this might be the most counterintuitive part of growth. Change doesn't stick because you demand it. It sticks because you allow enough safety for it to remain. Every time that you stop pushing, that you release that sense of urgency, when you let yourself be exactly where you are, where you trust the pace of your system, you reinforce the message, I don't need to force myself to be okay. And that message changes everything. Hey there, feeling stuck? Spinning your wheels? Are you ready for a breakthrough? Well, then you need to hear this because I've got something that will supercharge your growth this year, and it's called the Mindset Makeover. Now, it's my new book and course that are designed to help you upgrade the mental software that drives your success. And inside, you're going to discover the mindsets that shape every decision, every habit, and every result. And you'll learn the science-backed tools to rewire your thinking for clarity, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. So whether you're aiming higher, trying to break free from old patterns, or finally stepping into that version of yourself that you know that you're capable of becoming, well, this is your launch pad. So don't wait. Head over to josejohnson.com/mindset to grab the book, join the course, or get both together. Again, that's josejohnson.com/mindset. And remember, it is what it is, but it becomes what you make it. And with the Mindset Makeover, you can make it something extraordinary. All right, so let's slow this all the way down. Now, this practice is not meant to be done perfectly. It's meant to be repeated mechanically. And it's not meant to improve you. It's meant to reorient your nervous system toward trust. You can do this once, you can do it occasionally, or you can return to it whenever you feel yourself tightening. All right, step one, orient to the present moment without fixing. Wherever you are right now, pause. Notice the surface beneath you, the position of your body, the temperature of the room, one sound that you can hear. Right? You're not grounding to calm yourself. You're orienting to say, I'm here right now, and that's enough. Step two, check for bracing. Now gently ask yourself, where am I holding tension that I don't need to hold? Now, you might notice some tension in your jaw, or that your shoulders are lifted, or that your breathing is a little shallow, or perhaps a sense of urgency in the chest or the belly. Now, don't try to correct it. Just notice it. Awareness without correction is already regulating. Step three, name what you're no longer trying to do. Now, this is a powerful step. Silently or out loud, complete the sentence. Right now, I'm not trying to fill in the blank. So, for example, right now, I'm not trying to fix myself. Right now, I'm not trying to understand everything. Right now, I'm not trying to get it right. Right now, I'm not trying to be better than I am. Right now, I'm not trying to move forward. Now, this signals to the nervous system the effort phase is over. Step four, offer a relational statement, but not a goal. Now offer yourself one simple statement. not as motivation, but as relationship. So, for example, I am allowed to be here as I am. Nothing needs to happen right now. I can move at the pace of my system. I don't need to earn rest. Now, this is an affirmation. It's orientation towards safety. Step 5, stay for 30 to 60 seconds. See, this is where real integration happens. Stay with the sensation of not doing, of not fixing, of not improving. Then notice how your breath settles, how your muscles soften, how your mind quiets, how emotional neutrality or softness begins to creep in. Now, if nothing happens, that's okay. Stillness itself is the practice. Step 6, end without a takeaway. When you're ready, end the practice without summarizing it. Don't ask, what did I learn? Did this work? What should I do next? Just transition back into your day. Now, this teaches your nervous system, I don't need to extract value to be safe. That lesson is embodiment. Now, this practice works because it does something subtle yet profound. It removes pressure from growth. And when pressure is removed, integration accelerates. Habits begin to stabilize. Insight settles into behavior. Self-trust strengthens. Change sticks not because you're hypervigilant, but because you stop abandoning yourself under stress. All right, so as we close the series, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't need to remember every concept. You don't need to practice everything. You don't need to keep working on yourself endlessly. What you can trust is these 4 things. First, your system knows how to integrate. Second, safety speeds change. Third, less force leads to more stability. And fourth, embodiment grows quietly. Remember, you're not behind, you're just integrating. So while insight opens the door, integration lets you walk through it. And embodiment is what allows you to live there without effort, without urgency, and without pressure. All right, so if this integration series helped you to relate to yourself more gently, please share it with someone who's been carrying growth like a burden. And make sure you like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss any future episodes of the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast. So until next time, remember, it is what it is, but it becomes what you make it. So make it great. Thanks for tuning in. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you that the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or treatment. While the content of this podcast is based on research and personal experience, everyone's situation is unique, and the advice given may not be applicable to all. Always consult a qualified professional before making significant changes in your life. The Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast is recorded at the So Good Media Studios, located in the Candy Factory, a co-working space in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.